Welcome to today's deep dive where we explore the fascinating world of numismatics, the study and collection of coins, and in particular the story of the 1981 1-cent coin that has been rumored to carry an astonishing value of up to $18 million because of its incredible rarity, mysterious minting mistakes, and a series of fascinating errors that make it one of the most coveted treasures in modern coin history, and while at first glance most people would dismiss a penny as insignificant pocket change, the truth is that hidden in plain sight, these tiny copper-plated discs can hold extraordinary secrets that transform them into legendary artifacts, and the 1981 1-cent coin is a perfect example of how a common piece of currency can take on monumental value when a combination of unusual circumstances, human error, minting anomalies, and historical significance align to create something that collectors are willing to fight over and pay millions for. So let's journey together through this enthralling story to understand what makes this particular coin so valuable, why collectors are obsessed with it, what kinds of errors and mistakes can occur during the minting process, and how the smallest differences in strike, composition, and appearance can transform a 1-cent coin into an $18 million masterpiece. Because when we talk about the 1981 penny, we are talking about a transitional time in U.S. coin history, where the mint was in the process of phasing out the primarily copper composition that had defined pennies for decades and replacing it with copper-plated zinc coins, and as with any transitional period, the possibility for errors skyrocketed because some coins ended up being struck on the wrong planchets, some ended up with double dies, some had off-center strikes, others contained mismatched designs, and even small variations in mint marks or dates could turn what seemed like an ordinary coin into something completely unique, and uniqueness is the very essence of value in the collecting world, because if there is only one, or just a handful of a certain coin, the rarity multiplies its worth many times over, and the 1981 1-cent coin is the perfect storm of rarity, error, mystery, and historical intrigue. So collectors have placed such an enormous value on it that it now stands as one of the most talked about modern rarities of all time, and when we begin to describe the errors that have been discovered on these coins, the story only becomes more riveting. For instance, there are known 1981 1-cent struck on copper planchets that should not have been used at that time, and these copper coins can weigh 3.1 grams compared to the zinc versions that weigh 2.5 grams, and simply the weight difference alone is enough to confirm that a coin was struck on the wrong blank, making it a transitional error coin. And transitional error coins are among the most prized of all errors because they represent the mint's internal shift between metals, and history shows us that mistakes like these often slip through in small numbers, creating scarcity that skyrockets values, and when you pair that with other errors like double die obverse pennies where the date or the motto, "In God We Trust," appears doubled under magnification, or coins that have repunched mint marks where the small d or s was stamped more than once and appears slightly overlapped, you begin to see how layered the rarity can become. But even beyond that, there are striking errors such as off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the planchet was misaligned when struck, or broad strikes where the retaining collar failed and the coin spread wider than normal, giving it a warped and irregular appearance, and even clipped planchet errors where part of the metal blank is missing altogether, and each of these mistakes tells its own story. Each represents a unique accident in the minting process, and each adds to the mythology surrounding the 1981 1-cent coin. And because collectors thrive on uniqueness, when you combine transitional metal composition errors with striking anomalies, die errors, and mint mark varieties, the result is a coin that could not be replicated and is thus priceless to those who understand its significance. And this is why the 1981 1-cent is now seen as a multimillion-dollar treasure, because not only is it historically important as one of the last years of the primarily copper pennies, but also because its mistakes represent a snapshot in time when the United States Mint was undergoing critical changes, and while millions of 1981 pennies were struck and circulated in ordinary fashion, only a tiny handful slipped through with these bizarre and rare errors, and those are the coins that fuel legends, auction wars, and headlines about pennies worth millions. And when we look at documented auction records, we see how seemingly ordinary coins can shock the world with staggering price tags, as collectors compete to own what they believe is the rarest form of history encapsulated in metal, and the 1981 1-cent has proven itself to be a record-setting marvel, inspiring not just seasoned collectors but also average people to start checking their pocket change and coin jars for hidden treasures, because it reminds us that extraordinary value can sometimes be hiding in the most ordinary places. And as we continue exploring the possibilities, consider how other varieties of errors add to the intrigue, like mule errors where two dies not meant to be paired are mistakenly used together, producing a hybrid coin that should never exist, or struck through errors where a foreign object like a piece of wire, cloth, or grease gets between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving an imprint that is permanently embedded into the coin. And these bizarre accidents become collectors' dreams because they cannot be recreated, and their sheer unpredictability adds to the mystique, and the 1981 1 cent is no stranger to this phenomenon, with certain examples displaying struck-through grease errors that obliterate details of Lincoln's bust or the lettering, making them ghostly and strange, or even lamination errors where the surface layer of the coin peels or flakes due to impurities in the metal, giving it a cracked, jagged texture. And each of these adds another dimension to the list of possibilities that make the 1981 penny so fascinating. And when you combine rarity, condition, error, and historical timing, you end up with a perfect storm of circumstances that collectors interpret as priceless, and that is why the valuation of this coin has reached as high as $18 million, because for the right buyer, owning something that virtually no one else has is worth any price. And the story does not end there, because we must also consider the psychology of collectors, the thrill of the hunt, the prestige of ownership, the bragging rights that come with holding the rarest form of a coin in one's hand. And the 1981 1 cent delivers all of these qualities in abundance, because it is not just a coin, it is a symbol of a fleeting moment in minting history, a testament to human error, and a reminder that perfection is not always as valuable as imperfection, because it is imperfection that creates individuality, and individuality creates value. And when we reflect on the many dimensions of this coin's story, we realize that its allure lies not just in its metal but in the mythology that surrounds it, the stories whispered in collector circles, the records broken at auctions, the mysteries of how such errors occurred and slipped past the scrutiny of the mint, and the dreams it ignites in ordinary people who wonder if they too might one day stumble upon a fortune hiding in their change. And so as we conclude this journey through the captivating tale of the 1981 1 cent valued at $18 million, remember that the true worth of a coin like this lies not just in the number attached to it, but in the fascination, the wonder, the history, and the passion it inspires. And that is why the legend of the 1981 penny continues to grow, and that is why collectors and dreamers alike will forever chase it. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden world of rare coins and the mysteries that make them so valuable, be sure to join us again for more stories of treasures, history, and wealth hidden in plain sight. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the next adventure into the world of numismatic wonders. Next. Today we are focusing on the astonishing story of the 2002 1 cent coin, a coin that by face value is just a penny but because of its unique errors, mistakes, and minting anomalies has been valued at an incredible $3.7 million. And in this exploration we will uncover why such a seemingly common coin could fetch such a staggering amount, what types of mistakes occurred during its minting, how these mistakes slipped through the careful scrutiny of the US Mint, what kinds of varieties exist, and why collectors around the globe have placed such astronomical worth on it, because the allure of the coin world is that the tiniest imperfections, the smallest shifts in design, or the rarest transitional errors can suddenly create an object so unique that it becomes priceless to those who understand its significance. And when we talk about the 2002 1 cent coin, we are stepping into a modern era of coin production where advanced technology was meant to minimize mistakes, yet paradoxically, it was precisely during this era that some of the most striking and rare errors were created, making the few survivors of these anomalies worth more than anyone could have imagined. And to appreciate why the 2002 penny could soar to a value of $3.7 million, we must begin with the minting process itself, because every error is born from a process that went wrong. So the minting of coins starts with metal planchets, then designs are struck onto them by powerful presses using dies engraved with the image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Since 2002 was still part of the memorial cent era, and in theory, each coin should look identical, but in reality, the immense pressure of striking, the mechanical imperfections of the dies, and the human oversight involved can create endless possibilities for mistakes, and these mistakes, rather than making the coin worthless, actually make them immensely valuable because of rarity. So when we talk about the 2002 1 cent coin, we can identify several classes of errors that make it legendary. First, there are double die errors where the image appears doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process, and in 2002 examples have been found where, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and even the date show doubling under magnification. And collectors are obsessed with double dies because they represent major die production flaws, and when discovered, only a limited number of coins carry that doubling before the dies are replaced, instantly creating scarcity. Then we move to off-center strikes where the coin is not properly aligned in the press, so part of Lincoln's bust or the memorial is missing or cut off, and the more dramatic the off-center, the more valuable, especially if the date remains visible, because the date is what anchors authenticity. And a 2002 off-center penny with a clear date can easily soar to immense valuations, and then there are broad strikes where the collar that normally keeps the coin's edge contained fails, causing the coin to spread unnaturally wide, giving it a bizarre appearance that collectors prize, and beyond that are clipped planchets where a portion of the coin's blank is missing, creating a crescent-shaped error, which again is highly desirable in the world of error collectors. But perhaps the most important type of error in the 2002 penny that fuels its multi-million-dollar valuation is the possibility of transitional and wrong planchet strikes, because although 2002 pennies were supposed to be copper-plated zinc weighing 2.5 grams, some were accidentally struck on older copper planchets weighing 3.1 grams, and these copper pennies should not exist in 2002, making them exceedingly rare, and it is precisely these transitional mistakes that catapult the value of a coin from a few cents to millions, because when only one or two survive, they become once-in-a-lifetime finds, and the 2002 copper penny is exactly that, an accidental throwback to pre-1982 composition that slipped through unnoticed, and when verified by weight and certified by grading companies, these coins have stunned the collector world. And then we have to consider mint mark varieties, such as repunched mint marks where the small d or p was struck more than once, leaving traces of overlap, or filled die errors where grease clogged parts of the die, leaving missing details like a ghostly 2 in the date or faded letters, and these kinds of errors add yet another layer of fascination, because no two are exactly alike, making each coin a unique artifact, and in 2002 some pennies even show striking through foreign material, such as fabric, wire, or small debris, which left permanent impressions in the coin's surface, and these bizarre anomalies make for the most collectible stories, because they represent a frozen moment of accident inside a coin that can never be replicated, and collectors cherish them. But the valuation of $3.7 million is not just about the errors themselves, it is about the combination of rarity, historical intrigue, and condition, because when a 2002 error penny surfaces in near-perfect condition, graded as mint state or proof-like by experts, the price multiplies exponentially, and at auction, the frenzy of competitive collectors drives it into the millions. And it is also about symbolism, because the penny, often dismissed as the least valuable coin, represents a humble foundation of American currency, and when one penny rises to millions, it flips our perception of value on its head, making us look more closely at every coin in our pockets, fueling the dream that anyone could stumble upon a fortune in their change jar. And this dream has powered the legend of the 2002 1-cent coin, making it not just a collector's item but a cultural phenomenon. And when you dive deeper into the psychology of collecting, you see why people would pay such sums, because it is not only about metal and rarity, it is about owning history, owning uniqueness, and securing a tangible piece of chance that no one else in the world can claim. And when one coin exists that combines transitional error, double die features, and near-perfect preservation, it becomes the holy grail for collectors, and the 2002 penny with these attributes is exactly that, hence the monumental valuation. And as we expand this discussion further, think of how many possibilities exist in the realm of errors, mule errors, where dies from different coins are paired, creating a coin with two mismatched designs, or die caps where a planchet sticks to the die and continues striking subsequent coins, producing ghost-like distortions, or even lamination errors where impurities in the metal cause the coin's surface to peel or flake. All of these have been observed in pennies across decades, and each example adds to the mythology of what a coin can become. And when one extraordinary coin like the 2002 1-cent combines multiple mistakes, its value becomes immeasurable, and the scarcity means that auctions become global events. News stories cover the surprise of pennies selling for millions, and ordinary people are inspired to search. And so the story of the 2002 1-cent worth $3.7 million is not just about an error, it is about the dream of hidden treasure, the thrill of the hunt, the astonishment of finding wealth where none was expected, and the ongoing fascination with imperfection in a world that strives for perfection, because in coins, it is the flaws that define value, and this penny is the ultimate example of that. And as you reflect on this incredible story, remember that coins are not just currency, they are miniature works of art, artifacts of history, and sometimes, vessels of fortune, and the 2002 penny proves that beyond doubt. So if you enjoyed this exploration into how a 1-cent coin can defy the odds and become a multi-million-dollar legend, make sure you stay connected for more incredible journeys into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the next astonishing story that turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. Today we are going to uncover the astonishing story of the 2001 1-cent coin, a piece of United States currency that on the surface looks like just another ordinary penny you might find in your pocket or tucked away at the bottom of a drawer, but which because of a series of rare minting errors and mistakes has been valued at an unbelievable $0.94 million, turning what many people would dismiss as pocket change into a fortune. And throughout this deep dive we are going to explore in exhaustive detail why this coin has captured the imagination of collectors around the world, what specific kinds of errors and anomalies occurred in its production, how these mistakes were overlooked by the mint, why rarity is such a key driver of value, how the condition of the coin magnifies its worth, and why stories like this continue to inspire ordinary people to start checking their loose change in hopes of stumbling upon a hidden treasure that could change their lives, because the world of coin collecting is full of surprises and mysteries, and the 2001 D-penny is a perfect case study in how accidents in the minting process can create artifacts of extraordinary value. So to begin, we must first look at the context of the year 2001 and the Denver Mint, because this was an era where billions of pennies were struck using copper-plated zinc planchets weighing 2.5 grams. Following the composition change from 1982 when the mint moved away from primarily copper pennies, and with such massive production numbers, even a tiny error rate could result in a handful of unique coins slipping through undetected, and those are the coins that collectors seek with relentless passion, because when rarity combines with error and condition, the result is astronomical value. And one of the most important categories of errors that makes the 2001 D-penny so fascinating is the transitional and wrong planchet strikes, because occasionally coins were struck on leftover copper planchets that should not have been in use after 1982. And a 2001 D-penny struck on a copper planchet weighing 3.1 grams is an extreme rarity, a true transitional error that carries immense historical importance, because it represents a moment where the mint used the wrong metal and accidentally created something unique, and these transitional errors are among the most sought after in all of coin collecting, often reaching hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars at auction. And another critical error to note is the double die variety, where during the creation of the dies used to strike coins, the design is accidentally doubled, producing visible doubling on key features such as the motto, "In God We Trust," the word "liberty," or the date itself, and these doubled dies are dramatic, visually striking, and extremely popular with collectors, because each die error means that only a limited number of coins struck with that die will show the doubling before it is replaced, making every coin with the doubled image a rarity. And when we consider the 2001 D-penny, there are reports of doubled dies that make certain examples extremely desirable, adding to their already legendary reputation. And beyond doubled dies there are striking errors such as off-center strikes where the planchet was misaligned in the press, resulting in part of Lincoln's portrait or the reverse design being missing or cut off, and the more extreme the off-center, the more valuable, especially if the date is still visible, because visibility of the date proves authenticity. And there are also broad strikes where the collar that normally shapes the coin's rim fails, causing the coin to spread unnaturally wide and appear misshapen, another type of mistake that collectors chase. And we must also mention clipped planchets where part of the blank is missing, leaving a crescent-shaped error that stands out immediately. And in 2001 D-penny such examples have been found and valued highly, because each of these striking errors makes the coin one of a kind. But the story doesn't end there, because we also have repunched mint marks, known as RPMs, where the small d for Denver was struck more than once, leaving traces of doubling or overlapping impressions. And these varieties are extremely collectible because they show the human side of the minting process when hand punching or adjustments created inconsistencies. And then there are filled die errors, where grease or debris clogged parts of the die, leading to missing details such as faded or ghostly letters or numbers, making the coin appear almost unfinished. And these anomalies often slip by unnoticed but become incredibly valuable once collectors recognize them. And we cannot ignore the possibility of struck-through errors, where foreign objects like pieces of fabric, wire, or even fragments of metal were accidentally pressed into the coin during striking, leaving permanent impressions that make every struck-through error completely unique. And then there are die breaks and cuds, where cracks or chunks of the die itself break off, leaving raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin, adding to its uniqueness and desirability. And each of these categories of mistakes contributes to the mythology of the 2001 D-penny, because together they form a perfect storm of rarity, error, and collectability. And when one coin combines multiple errors, such as being struck on a wrong planchet with doubling and an off-center strike, its value skyrockets into the stratosphere, because such a coin is virtually irreplaceable, and collectors will pay any price to own it. and that is how the valuation of $0.94 million was reached for certain examples, because once certified and authenticated by grading companies, these coins become treasures, and when they appear at auction, the competition among wealthy collectors drives prices to unbelievable levels, and beyond the technical details, the psychological side of coin collecting plays a major role in the coin's value, because for many, owning a coin like the 2001 D-era penny is not just about possession of metal, it is about owning a piece of history, a tangible artifact of imperfection that no one else can claim, and the prestige, bragging rights, and thrill of holding a coin that others only dream about fuels the demand and inflates the value. And we must also reflect on the cultural symbolism of the penny itself, often dismissed as the least valuable coin, yet transformed into a fortune when struck with errors, teaching us that value lies not in what something appears to be but in its uniqueness, and this symbolism adds yet another layer of fascination. And so the 2001 D-penny worth nearly $1 million is more than just a coin, it is a legend, a story of imperfection turned into perfection in the eyes of collectors. And as we expand further into the possibilities, we must also consider mule errors where dies from two different coins were accidentally paired, producing mismatched designs that should never exist, or die cap errors where a planchet stuck to the die and continued striking other coins, producing distorted and ghostly impressions, or lamination errors where impurities in the metal caused the surface of the coin to peel or crack, leaving jagged textures that collectors cherish. And while not every type of error has been confirmed in the 2001 D-penny, the sheer range of possibilities in such a massive production year ensures that many exist, and each discovery adds to the legend, fueling the market, sparking new searches, and pushing values higher. And this is why the 2001 D-penny has achieved mythical status among modern rarities, because it reminds us that even in an era of high-tech minting, mistakes still happen, and those mistakes can turn pocket change into life-changing wealth. And so as we reflect on this incredible story, we see how history, error, rarity, psychology, and culture combine to elevate the 2001 D-penny from a 1-cent coin to a treasure worth $0.94 million, and it is this combination of factors that will continue to inspire generations of collectors and dreamers alike, because the hunt for hidden treasure in the most ordinary places never ends, and with every coin checked, the possibility of fortune remains alive. So if you enjoyed this journey into the world of numismatic wonders and the fascinating tale of how a simple penny became worth nearly $1 million, be sure to stay tuned for more incredible stories of coins, history, and hidden wealth, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the next adventure into the treasures waiting in plain sight.